Hi, welcome to our weekly poetry reading. I'm Mary Logue. I'm the branch manager at the Claremont Branch Library, and this is our time where I get to share some poetry with you. We've been doing this for 6 weeks now, and if you missed any or want to revisit, you can always go to the Claremont Facebook page, click on videos on the left-hand side, and then go to the playlist for the poetry readings, and you'll see all of the readings there. I'm excited today because today I get to share with you poems from 4 of my favorite American poets. I'll be sharing some poetry of Emily Dickinson with you, and I enjoy Emily's poems because most of them are very short, but they are very profound and quite descriptive and thought-provoking. I'll also be sharing poems from Emerson, and the reason I enjoy Emerson is that his poems bring pictures to mind as well as telling a sort of story. Edgar Allan Poe will be another poet that I will be sharing poems from, and the reason I chose him is, while his poems tend to be, in my feel, a bit more grounded in tone, there's a beauty to the language and the way that he handles a topic. And I'll be ending with poems by Robert Frost, and he is one of my favorite poets also. His topics often can be simple topics of nature, but he beautifully describes things and leaves you with lingering images and thoughts that just stay with you. So I'd like to get started. I am excited to share some of these poems with you. I have been looking forward to this. So we're going to start with poems by Emily Dickinson, and most of these don't have official titles, so I will just read them through and pause in between the poems without giving titles. The first poem I'm going to read. A thought went up my mind today that I have had before, but did not finish some way back. I could not fix the year, nor where it went, nor why it came the second time to me, nor definitely what it was, have I the art to say. But somewhere in my soul I know I've met this thing before. It just reminded me it was all, and came my way no more. Moving on to the next poem. It's a very short one. A word is dead when it is said, some say. I say it just begins to live that day. While I was fearing it, it came, but came with less of fear, because that fearing it so long had almost made it dear. There is a fitting, a dismay, a fitting, a despair. It is harder knowing it is due than knowing it is here. The trying on the utmost, the morning it is new. It is terribler than wearing it a whole existence through. Here's one that you may have heard before. There is no frigate like a book to take us lands away, nor any courses like a page of prancing poetry. This traverse may the poorest take without oppress of toll. How frugal is the chariot that bears a human soul. Another fun one. The brain is wider than the sky, for put them side by side, the one the other will include, with ease, and you beside. The brain is deeper than the sea, for hold them blue to blue, the one the other will absorb, as sponges buckets do. The brain is just the weight of God, for lift them up pound for pound, and they will differ, if they do, as syllable from sound. Will there really be a morning? Is there such a thing as day? Could I see it from the mountains, if I were tall as they? Has it feet like water lilies? Has it feathers like a bird? Is it brought from famous countries, of which I have never heard? Oh, some scholar, oh, some sailor, oh, some wise man from the skies, please to tell a little pilgrim where the place called morning lies. I dreaded that first robin so, but he is mastered now, and I'm accustomed to him grown. He hurts a little though. I thought if I could only live till that first shout got by, not all pianos in the woods had power to mangle me. I dared not meet the daffodils, for fear their yellow gown would pierce me with a fashion so foreign to my own. I wished the grass would hurry, so when 'twas time to see, he'd be too tall, the tallest one could stretch to look at me. I could not bear the bees should come, I wished they'd stay away. In those dim countries where they go, what word had they for me? They're here though, not a creature failed, no blossom stayed away, in gentle deference to me, the Queen of Calvary. Each one salutes me as he goes, and I my childish plumes lift in bereaved acknowledgment of their unthinking drums. They say that time assuages. Time never did assuage, and actual suffering strengthens, as sinews do with age. Time is a test of trouble, but not a remedy. If such it proved too, there was no malady. A precious mouldering pleasure it is to meet an antique book, in just the dress his century wore, a privilege, I think, his venerable hand to take, and warming in our own, a passage back or two to make to times when he was young, his quaint opinions to inspect, his knowledge to unfold, on what concerns our mutual mind, the literatures of old. What interested scholars most, what competitions ran, when Plato was a certainty, and Sophocles a man, when Sappho was a living girl, and Beatrice wore the gown that Dante deified, facts centuries before. He traverses familiar, as one should come to town, and tell you all your dreams were true. He lived where dreams were born. His presence is enchantment. You beg him not to go. Old volumes shake their vellum heads and tantalize just so. I had a guinea golden, I lost it in the sand, and though the sum was simple, and pounds were in the land, still had it such a value unto my frugal eye, that when I could not find it, I sat me down to sigh. I had a crimson robin, who sang full many a day, but when the woods were painted, he too did fly away. Time brought me other robins, their ballads were the same. Still, for my missing troubadour, I kept the house at hame. I had a star in heaven, one Pleiad was his name, and when I was not heeding, it wandered from the same. And though the skies are crowded, and all the night ashine, I do not care about it, since none of them are mine. My story has a moral. I have a missing friend, Pleiad its name, and robin, and guinea in the sand. And when this mournful ditty, accompanied with tear, shall meet the eye of trader in country far from here, grant that repentance solemn may seize upon his mind, and he no consolation beneath the sun may find. And the last one I'm going to read, I think, is a little one. It's a short one and a fun one, I believe. I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us. Don't tell. They'd banish us, you know. How dreary to be somebody. How public, like a frog. To tell your name the livelong day to an admiring bog. So that ends the poems I have for you from Emily Dickinson. We're going to move on to a few poems I have from Ralph Waldo Emerson. And the first one I'm going to read is the Rhodura, on being asked whence is the flower. In May, when sea winds pierced our solitudes, I found the fresh Rhodura in the woods, spreading its leafless blooms in a damp nook, to please the desert and the sluggish brook. The purple petals, fallen in the pool, made the black water with their beauty gay. Here might the red bird come his plumes to cool, and court the flower that cheapens his array. Rhodora, if the sages ask thee why this charm is wasted on the earth and sky, tell them, dear, that if eyes were made for seeing, then beauty is its own excuse for being. Why thou wert there, O rival of the rose, I never thought to ask, I never knew, but in my simple ignorance suppose the self-same power that brought me there brought you. Next poem is called The Humble Bee. Burly, dozing humble bee, that where thou art is clime for me. Let them sail for Porto Rique, far off heats through seas to seek. I will follow thee alone, thou animated torrid zone. Zigzag steerer, desert cheerer, let me chase thy waving lines. Keep me nearer, me thy hearer, singing over shrubs and vines. Insect lover of the sun, joy of thy dominion, sailor of the atmosphere, swimmer through the waves of air, voyager of light and noon, Epicurean of June. Wait, I prithee, till I come within earshot of thy hum. All without is martyrdom. When the south wind in May days, with a net of shining haze, silvers the horizon wall, and with softness touching all, tints the human countenance with a color of romance, and infusing subtle heats, turns the sod to violets. Thou, in sunny solitudes, rover of the underwoods, the green silence dost displace with thy mellow breezy bass. Hot midsummer's petted crone, sweet to me thy drowsy tone, tells of countless sunny hours, long days and solid banks of flowers, of gulfs of sweetness without bound, in Indian wilderness found, of Syrian peace, immortal leisure, firmest cheer, and bird-like pleasure. Aught unsavory or unclean hath my insect never seen, but violets and bilberry bells, maple sap and daffodils, grass with green flag half-mast high, succory to match the sky, columbine with horn of honey, scented fern and agrimony, clover, catchfly, adder's tongue, and briar roses dwelt among. All beside was unknown waste, all was picture as he passed. Wiser far than human seer, yellow-breeched philosopher, seeing only what is fair, sipping only what is sweet. Thou dost mock at fate and care, leave the chaff and take the wheat. When the fierce northwestern blast cools sea and land so far and fast, thou already slumberest deep. Woe and want thou canst outsleep, want and woe which tortures us, thy sleep makes ridiculous. And the next poem, also Ralph Waldo Emerson, is Merops. What care I, so they stand the same? Things of the heavenly mind, how long the power to give them name tarries yet behind. Thus far today your favors reach, O fair, appeasing presences. Ye taught my lips a single speech, and 1,000 silences. Space grants beyond his fated road no inch to the god of day, and copious language still bestowed, one word, no more to say. And the last Emerson poem I'm going to read today is called Give All to Love. Give all to love, obey thy heart, friends, kindred, days, estate, good fame, plans, credit, and the muse, nothing refuse. It is a brave master, let it have scope, follow it utterly, hope beyond hope. High and more high, it dives into noon, with wing unspent, untold intent. But it is a god, knows its own path, and the outlets of the sky. It was never for the mean, it requireth courage stout, souls above doubt, valor unbending. It will reward, they shall return, more than they were, and ever ascending. Leave all for love, yet hear me yet. One word that more thy heart behooved, one pulse more of firm endeavor. Keep thee today, tomorrow, forever, free as an Arab of thy beloved. Cling with life to the maid, but when the surprise, first vague shadow of surmise, flits across her bosom young, of a joy apart from thee, free be she, fancy free, nor thou detain her vesture's hem, nor the palest rose she flung from her summer diadem. Though thou loved her as thyself, as a self of purer clay, though her parting dims the day, stealing grace from all alive, heartily know, when half-gods go, the gods arrive. So we are going to move on to some poems by Edgar Allan Poe. And the first poem is A Dream Within a Dream. Take this kiss upon the brow, and, in parting from you now, thus much let me avow. You are not wrong, who deem that my days have been a dream. Yet if hope has flown away, in a night or in a day, in a vision or in none, is it therefore the less gone? All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. I stand amid the roar of a surf-tormented shore, and I hold within my hand grains of the golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep, while I weep, while I weep. O God, can I not grasp them with a tighter clasp? O God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream? Next poem by Poe is called Romance. Romance, who loves to nod and sing with drowsy head and folded wing, among the green leaves as they shake, far down within some shadowy lake. To me a painted paroquet hath been a most familiar bird, taught me my alphabet to say, to lisp my very earliest word, while in the wild wood I did lie, a child with a most knowing eye. Of late eternal condor years, so shake the very heaven on high, with tumult as they thunder by. I have no time for idle cares, through gazing on the unquiet sky. And when an hour with calmer wings its down upon my spirit flings, that little time with lyre and rhyme to while away forbidden things, my heart would feel to be a crime unless it trembled with the strings. And this one is called To Paradise. Thou wast that all to me, love, for which my soul did pine, a green isle in the sea, love, a fountain and a shrine, all wreathed with fairy fruits and flowers, and all the flowers were mine. Ah, dream too bright to last! Ha, starry hope, that didst arise, but to be overcast! A voice from out the future cries, On, on! But o'er the past, dim gulf, my spirit hovering lies, mute, motionless, aghast. For alas, alas with me, the light of life is o'er. No more, no more, no more. Such language holds the solemn sea to the sands upon the shore. Shall bloom the thunder-blasted tree, or the stricken eagle soar? And all my days are trances, and all my nightly dreams are where thy grey eye glances, and where thy footstep gleams, in what ethereal dances, by what eternal streams. The next poem by Edgar Allan Poe is called Fairyland. Dim vales and shadowy floods, and cloudy-looking woods, whose forms we can't discover for the tears that drip all over. Huge moons there wax and wane, again, 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 every moment of the night, forever changing places. And they put out the starlight with the breath from their pale faces. About 12 by the moon dial, one more flimsy than the rest, a kind which, upon trial, they have found to be the best, comes down, still down, and down, with its center on the crown of a mountain's eminence, while its wide circumference in easy drapery falls, over hamlets, over halls, wherever they may be, o'er the strange woods, o'er the sea, over spirits on the wing, over every drowsy thing, and buries them up quite in a labyrinth of light. And then, how deep, how, oh deep, is the passion of their sleep. In the morning they arise, and their moony covering is soaring in the skies, with the tempests as they toss, like almost anything, or a yellow albatross. They use that moon no more, for the same end as before, vitilect a tent, which I think extravagant, its atomies, however, into a shower dissever, of which those butterflies of earth who seek the skies, and so come down again, never contented things, have brought a specimen upon their quivering wings. And my last poem that I'm going to share with you by Edgar Allan Poe is called El Dorado. Gaily bedight, a gallant knight, in sunshine and in shadow, had journeyed long, singing a song, in search of El Dorado. But he grew old, this knight so bold, and o'er his heart a shadow fell as he found no spot of ground that looked like El Dorado. And as his strength failed him at length, he met a pilgrim shadow. Shadow, said he, where can it be, this land of El Dorado? Over the mountains of the moon, down the valley of the shadow. Ride, boldly ride, the shade replied, if you seek for El Dorado. So now we are going to move to the last poet for the day, which is Robert Frost. And my first poem is called To the Thawing Wind. Come with rain, O loud southwester. Bring the singer, bring the nester. Give the buried flower a dream. Make the settled snowbank steam. Find the brown beneath the white. But whate'er you do tonight, bathe my window, make it flow. Melt it as the ice will go. Melt the glass and leave the sticks like a hermit's crucifix. Burst into my narrow stall. Swing the picture on the wall. Run the rattling pages o'er. Scatter the poems on the floor. Turn the poet out of door. And this poem is called Pan with Us. Pan came out of the woods one day. His skin and his hair and his eyes were gray. The gray of the moss of walls were they. and stood in the sun and looked his fill at wooded valley and wooded hill. He stood in the zephyr, pipes in hand, on a height of naked pasture land. In all the country he did command. He saw no smoke, and he saw no roof. That is well, and he stamped a hoof. His heart knew peace, for none came here to this lean feeding save once a year. Someone to salt the half-wild steer, or homespun children with clicking pails, who see so little they tell no tales. He tossed his pipes, too hard to teach, a new world song far out of reach, for a sylvan sign that the blue jays screech, and the whimper of hawks beside the sun, were music enough for him, for one. Times were changed from what they were, such pipes kept less of power to stir the fruited bough of the juniper, and the fragile bluets clustered there, than the merest aimless breath of air. They were pipes of pagan mirth, and the world had found new terms of worth. He laid them down on the sunburned earth, and ravelled a flower and looked away. Play? Play? What should he play? And this is a very famous one, called Mending Wall. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen ground swell under it, and spills the upper boulders in the sun, and makes gaps even two can pass abreast. The work of hunters is another thing. I have come after them and made repair, where they have left not one stone on a stone, but they would have the rabbit out of hiding, to please the yelping dogs. The gaps, I mean, no one has seen them made or heard them made, but at spring mending time we find them there. I let my neighbor know beyond the hill, and on a day we meet to walk the line, and set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go, to each the boulders that have fallen to each, and some are loaves, and some so nearly balls, that we have to use a spell to make them balance. Stay where you are until our backs are turned. We wear our fingers rough with handling them. Oh, just another kind of outdoor game, one on a side. It comes to little more. There where it is we do not need the wall. He is all pine, and I am apple orchid. My apple trees will never get across and eat the cones under his pines, I tell him. He only says, good fences make good neighbors. Spring is the mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. Why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are cows? But here there are no cows. Before I built a wall, I'd ask to know what I was walling in or walling out, and to whom I was like to give offense. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down. I could say elves to him, but it's not exactly elves, and I'd rather he say it for himself. I see him there, bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top, in each hand, like an old stone savage armed. He moves in darkness, as it seems to me, not of woods only, and the shade of a tree. He will not go behind his father's saying, and he likes having thought of it so well. He says again, good fences make good neighbors. And this is a very short poem called Dust of Snow. The way the crow shook down on me, the dust of snow from a hemlock tree, has given my heart a change of mood, and saved some part of a day I had rued. And I'm going to end with two more poems that are very well-known poems by Robert Frost. And the first of the two is called The Road Not Taken. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them really about the same, and both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And lastly, I will be ending with stopping by the woods on a snowy evening. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So those are the poems I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed listening to them. I really enjoyed sharing some of my favorite American poets and poems with you. Next week, I will be doing some longer poems, so I'll have fewer of them, but it should be a fun time. So I hope you will join me back again next Monday for some more poems. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful week.